Welcome to the Stormcrow Show, the show that discusses a variety of nerdy and pop culture topics with an air of humor. My name is Josh.
And I'm Brady.
We are your hosts for this moment of your time. Now, today, we are discussing the top 5 most likely returning mechanics in Hour of Devastation, the next standard set that will come from the Amonkhet block.
Sure. Now, before we launch into our discussion on this Magic the Gathering topic, I would be remiss to mention that this episode of the Stormcrow Show is brought to you by one sponsor. And with that, take it away, Josh.
It's true, you would be remiss. Right. So, the first mechanic I expect to see, or we expect to see, is Storm. While this mechanic hasn't been in Standard since it was brought back in the Time Spiral block, and although it is ranked number 10 on Mark Rosewater's Storm scale, by the way, if you wish to know more about that, there's a link below in the description on the Storm scale, so you can take a look at that and learn what that means. There is strong evidence that Grapeshot is getting a reprint in Standard.
Such as?
Well, the most obvious hint comes back from a few sets ago, right? Going back to Shadows over Innistrad. Specifically, the cards Harness the Storm and Vessel of Volatility both have the ability to support Storm as a mechanic in general, and both are red. I mean, Harness the Storm also has the word storm in it. I mean, you can't get a better hint than that.
I suppose since Storm is so high on the Storm scale, too, that's probably why they didn't print it right away. I mean, why would we want it to dominate Standard?
Exactly. And it's just before the rotation change would occur, so Hour of Devastation will be the last set before Shadows over Innistrad and the whole block there cycles out.
Well, you can't beat that logic. There you have it, folks. Storm is coming back to Standard.
All right, so what's our next mechanic, Brady?
Well, after careful thought and evaluation, the next mechanic I expect to return is Embalm.
Really?
Yeah, it's so obvious, actually. I mean, we had Shadows over Innistrad, which has so many zombies in it that Wizards has indicated they were looking for something to synergize with zombies. So yeah, I see no reason for the mechanic not to come back. Plus, it's popular tribe in general.
That makes sense. I mean, it's not like we need vampires back anyway. Well, in the interest of time, we better get to our third mechanic on our list. Brady, do you want to take this one as well?
Sure. The next mechanic we're expecting to return in Hour of Devastation is Suspend.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and for two very good reasons. First, the name of the set is Hour of Devastation. I mean, the word hour implies a duration of time, and time counters are used on Suspend cards, like Ancestral Visions. Also, the supplemental product, Mind versus Might, is all about Suspend. Well, the Mind half is. And Wizards likes to drop hints in those dual decks and other supplemental products. So, why not?
Well, that makes sense to me, especially since we don't... I mean, it would work with Storm to some extent. Not to mention, as foretold, with Ancestral Visions would be some sick synergy.
Yeah, basically. Also, Ancestral Visions is worth a good amount of cash right now, so a reprint would be really nice.
All right, thank you, Brady. And now, a brief intermission. All right, so we're back.
Right? And we're going to jump right into it. Josh, what is our number 2 most likely returning mechanic?
Well, I was originally going to say vehicles, but then I realized Amonkhet really doesn't support that at all because they don't really have vehicles. They have, maybe they have chariots, but they don't have cars. So that led me to a more logical option, specifically Inspired.
Why do you say that?
Well, Inspired was, when it first came out back in Born of the Gods, I believe, was one of the most uninspirational mechanics implemented, in my opinion. And the thing is, though, it would really be a good mechanic to bring back here. For one thing, this is another block with an ancient mythology history to it. So you've got with the gods being involved. So you have that sort of inspired feel.
Sure.
So there's some there's precedent there. It also works really well with vehicles because you tap it, you activate the vehicle, then you untap it, and happiness happens.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, there you go. I guess inspired is legitimate to talk about.
All right. Well, okay. So with that, we're at number 1. Now we're gonna let the viewers, I think, just take a moment to think really hard about what mechanic should show up too. What mechanic should show up as number 1, and then we'll tell you what it is.
Manic Scribe is coming for you.
Sure. Yeah, it probably is actually deep down somewhere in someone's heart.
Probably.
Yeah. All right. Okay. We'll go on to it. All right, Brady, what's the number 1 mechanic most likely to return to Hour of Devastation?
Well, I took a long time thinking about the possibilities, and I realized that there is a card that thematically and mechanically makes sense to bring back from, get this, Arabian Nights.
Oh no.
And while mechanic does show up from time to time, this mechanic hasn't shown up in a while, so we're overdue.
Wait. You don't mean...
I do. I think banding is coming back, so that way Camel can get the reprint it deserves. The only downside is that Wedge from the Mana Source will probably cry a little.
I think a lot of people are going to cry if that was the case, especially with banding.
Hey, Camel Tribal could be a thing. But yeah, also, there's now a lot of desert lands, and given that Camel has protection from deserts, it would only make sense that a card as bad as that one should be made available again, where it's at its strongest.
But you also think banding in general would return too?
Why not? The whole storyline is about how the Amonkhet population is completely being deceived by Bolas. Taking him on 1-versus-1 matchup is suicide. Even Ugin couldn't do that. So the good guys need to band together in order to beat Bolas. It's the only way.
This makes terrible sense to me.
I know, right?
Oh boy. Well, of course we won't know until the official spoiler season comes out. Of course, there's been some cards been revealed, but no mechanics, of course.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for all who watched the episode. Be sure to subscribe. We are planning on putting out a video once per week covering a variety of nerdy and pop culture topics. Make sure you also hit that like button if you enjoyed this episode, and feel free to leave a comment on what else you'd like us to talk about.
Just be nice in your feedback and to each other. And with that, my name is Brady.
And I've been Josh. And still am, actually.
And this has been the Stormcrow Show. See you next week.